Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 199 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on, my friend?
Not too much, man. Glad to have you back stateside. Barn burner of an episode for you all. I know we say that every week, but the run up to 200 has been pretty exciting for us. So fired up to chat some puck with you guys today. We're going to recap the All Star game. We got our buddy Nick Bowins from Hockey Collective joining us for that. We're going to go through a whole bunch of news. But real quick, before we get into anything, I have a little announcement for you boys. So, Harry, I'm sure you might have seen this circulating on social media, but I will be at Don't Know Tavern on February 18th in the year of our Lord 2024 for the Daytona 500 with friend of the program, Marty Huff, Travis Pastrana, and Street Bike Tommy. So be sure to come to Don't Know Tavern on Sunday the 18th for our Daytona 500 watch party. It's going to be an absolute blast. Good Boy Vodka is going to be there with their new Citrus Smash, which is inspired by our own Maryland Orange Crushes. It's going to be an unreal time. So shout out to Don't Know for making dreams come true once again.
That was, I believe that was 2 years ago. One of the most fun days of 2022. I came to the event, got shit-faced. Famous video of me with Nick screaming at Chase Elliott to win the race.
That was amazing. And we were in it until the end. That was electric.
Came home, went to sleep at like 6 p.m. I had to leave for Mexico the next day, and Marty had to, we were living together. He had to wake me up at that time so I didn't miss my flight, didn't pack my bags or anything. It was pretty chaotic. So that's always a PTSD moment for me.
Yeah, I think there was some FaceTimes between you and I of you just like in your closet later that night.
Sounds about right. Yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me. But anyways, we are going to pass it off to my other co-host up in Milwaukee, Mr. Mac Vogel. How we doing?
I'm doing good. That is a hilarious story. I think I'd heard parts of that, maybe not the closet part, but that's fucking funny. Also, that event sounds sick. I love that bar. Or I might even say I love this bar. Shout out Toby Keith. May he rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, that's awesome. You should definitely go check that out. If I was in Maryland, I would most certainly be there. That sounds like a absolute blast. And you know what else is going to be a blast? This episode, boys, it feels like it's been a second since we've had all three of us on here. It's probably only been like 2 weeks or something, but
It's been 14 days, but yeah, that's a year in our mind.
Sure.
Yeah, cool. So let's have an epi here. Let's talk some hawk.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one of the most crowded episodes in terms of news and all that. One little final announcement, and we don't have anything formal on the calendar, but I will be in Milwaukee, most likely seeing Mac at least once the weekend of February 23rd. Maybe we get a little Elwood action in there. We'll throw something up if people are down to hang out. So be on the lookout for that. But it is very good to be back. Do you guys want me to lead my story off that I've been ramped up about
Yeah, we
for
need
the
to
pod,
hear this.
or do I need to save this for the end?
Nah, right now. Let's get
Travel rants are so back.
Yep.
All right, so gonna give a little recap of my disastrous trip that caused me to not be on the pod last week, and then I promise you we'll hop in the news and get rolling. But last week I was over in Ireland, had some work stuff to do over there. Unfortunately, had to miss the show. Every time I end up going away for work, I come home and end up weighing like 10 pounds heavier. It's just the way it is. So this time I said, you know what? I'm not coming home 10 pounds heavier. I'm gonna get there, eat clean, a couple beers, but nothing crazy, and I'm gonna come home and not feel like a piece of shit. There was a steakhouse right next to the hotel that I was at. Irish steak, beef. It's all like a delicacy. They glorify cows, the butter, the milk. It's all delicious. It's great. I guess the day before my flight home, I had a medium rare steak that I looked at and was like, that's pretty rare. I don't know if I would classify that as medium rare. That has a little bit of a purple tint to it. So me being me, I'm like, well, I got an iron stomach. Nothing bothers me, and usually nothing does. So next day, wake up, we get on the flight. Coming home from Europe is always longer than the way there because the winds are going in the opposite direction. So it's about a 7.5 hour flight back to Dulles, and then I have to get from Dulles back to Baltimore.
Which, for anyone who's ever done that drive, is the most difficult part of that ordeal.
Horrible, horrible. So I'm sitting in the Aer Lingus. Tell me that's not the funniest name ever if you've never
Hilarious.
never been,
Yeah.
never been
I've
to
heard
Ireland.
that one before, and every time I'm like,
Oh yeah. Service is excellent, but the name is funny.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking good.
So hanging out in the Aer Lingus lounge, grabbing a coffee, and all of a sudden I feel a brick boiling in my stomach. And I am like, oh dear God, that's brewing. Like we gotta take care of business before we hop on the flight.
So
I
now
get-
you're like, are you thinking like, okay, I feel like I have to poop. Like this is a
Yes.
poop coming on. I'm going
Yeah.
to have to poop on this flight.
I had to lay a brick before the flight.
Okay.
So I go into the Aer Lingus lounge, I go to the bathroom, and I am just pissing out of my ass. Just like losing every fluid that my cells could hang on to. And I'm like, oh no, that's not good. I've got 7.5 hours in front of me, plus a ride home from DC at rush hour. This is going to be a long day. So I'm already freaked, right? So we get on the plane and I'm like, all right, like I don't feel bad, but I'm scared something's going to be coming. And I'm on a window seat. So I have people that I have to say, excuse me to if I need to go to the bathroom, which is the first worst part. Second worst part, the bathroom is all the way in the back of the plane. And I'm like as far forward as you can be without being first class. So I got to walk the whole distance.
I'm that guy that like if I'm in a window seat and I just even have to like pee really bad, I'm like, I'm not bugging these people. I'm just gonna fucking tough it out. Like that's
Same.
tough. I hate
Same.
doing that. I
Yeah.
hate doing that. So I feel you.
So that I have the same mentality, and that's going to come into the story here very quickly. So about an hour in, I'm like, oh no, I feel it brewing again. And I have never pooped on an airplane bathroom. Have you guys?
Absolutely not. That is like worst case scenario for
I
me.
think I may have once in a move of desperation, like similar to what you're saying, out of nowhere, something hit me and I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But like I say maybe because if I did, I tried to block that out of my mind as
Yeah.
hard as I could.
I'm a home bowl guy. Like I like
Oh, yeah.
my home ice advantage. If I'm going outside the home, it is dire straits happening. Like shit literally
Yeah.
is about to go down.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like in the bathroom. I was like, am I really gonna shit on this airplane? Like, and not only shit, like destructively shit. Like we're talking skid marks, we're talking fumes coming out. Like this is just getting bad.
There really is nowhere for it to go. So
There's nowhere for it to go. So I drop one of the biggest shits of my life. And I'm like, oh my God, we are 1 hour into this and I have the whole day to go. So I go back to my seat, say, excuse me. I'm like, all right, like in my brain, I'm like, once every 2 hours is probably the appropriate limit for where this woman will not think I'm like an asshole for getting up all the time. So I'm like, once every 2 hours, that's in my brain because it's happening in my stomach. I just got to hold my asshole in, basically. So after like 40 minutes from the first poop, I'm like, this is not gonna work. Like I am in panic mode. This is horrible. So I'm like, all right, excuse me, bathroom. Yeah, I gotta go. And she's like, okay, like whatever. She gets up, she's got her headphones on. So I go to the back, drop another massive one. And I know what's coming. I know what's coming. Like I know I'm gonna have to go at least once an hour. So I look at the flight attendant and there's nobody sitting in the back row. They have like these like pillows sitting there. And I'm like, ma'am, can I sit here? And she's like, I can't do an Irish accent, so I'm not even gonna try. But she's like, well, no, you bought the seat that you're sitting at up front. I'm like,
I'm sorry, but you bought the seat up front.
yeah,
You can't
literally.
sit there because you didn't pay for it.
You actually did that pretty well. And I looked at it and I didn't necessarily come out and say like I have the shits, but I was like, I'm having some issues. Like I just basically said that.
Ma'am, it's in everyone's best interest
Yeah. My
if I can sit back here near the bathroom.
my face had to have been bloodshot red as asking this. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God. Like she knows she's probably got a stopwatch timing me for seeing how long I'm in there once I'm in there. Like, this is just horrible. She's like,
Not the
and she's
stopwatch.
like, I'm sorry, sir. Like, I need you to go sit in your seat. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna kill myself. Like, what am I gonna do? So I go back, anxiety's high, like really high. And you know how when you get anxiety and you already have stomach problems, it just makes it 30 times worse. So within 30 minutes after two poops in my under my belt in the airplane, I'm like, I gotta go again. Like this is so bad. Like, and
I
it's
have secondhand anxiety right now.
I'm like,
Just like,
do not
yeah.
bother this fucking woman next
and
to you
I'm like,
again.
oh my God, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't ask this woman again. She's gonna be like, what the fuck? So I just look at her, I'm like, excuse me, like, well, whatever. And I grab my laptop like with me. Like that way, maybe it looks like I'm not going to the bathroom. Maybe she thinks I'm like,
I have some business to
yeah.
attend to in
So
the
what,
back
you're
of the
gonna bring
plane.
You're
I
gonna
don't
bring
know.
your
I just thought,
laptop?
I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, maybe she thinks I'm gonna like work like
What the
somewhere else. I don't
fuck?
know. So I look at the flight attendant that I just talked to 30 minutes prior, and I was like, ma'am, like, I actually have to sit here. Like I'm having health issues. And she was like,
Did you say
"All right."
health
I
issues?
said health issues.
There you go.
And
Dude.
she goes, all right. And
Wow.
I must have shit, no lie, like probably like 9 times on a 7.5 hour flight in an
Uh,
airplane bathroom because
uh,
I'm convinced that that steak the night before just shredded me. So I'm like, oh my God,
you
this
had
is horrible.
mad cow disease.
Yeah,
Mad cow disease. Now,
you made a grave mistake the night before.
Nice.
so the story gets actually entirely worse. So
Oh.
because I
Oh.
because I was kind of rushing at the airport before I went, I didn't have a chance to grab a water bottle. And as you guys know, you fly, you get dehydrated, it kind of like dries you up a little bit. So European Airlines, the service is great, but man, they fucking skimp you on portions. Like they
Yeah.
give you a little, it's not even a cup. They give you a packet of water, like it's like little Heinz ketchup that's like this big, and you just crack it and you like slurp it, almost like it's a goo, like one of
Yeah.
those endurance goo. It's really
It's like what
weird.
the like cyclists use or something to stay
Yeah,
hydrated or some
yeah, but
shit. But
it's water,
What
right?
no,
the
it's
fuck?
ridiculous. Like
So it's
it's absolutely
Dude.
ridiculous.
So they give you 3 of those over the course of 7.5 hours. I'm like, thanks for the half cup of water. Like
Yeah.
seriously. So we get that we land in Dulles. I'm with my boss, and we land in Dulles at 3:30. And
Wait a
he's
minute.
like,
Your boss was with you the whole time?
yes.
Did did he know what was going on with
He didn't
you?
sit with me, so thankfully I don't think he really knew what was going on, but that almost
Okay.
makes it worse. So we land, it's 3:30, we're in Dulles, DC, we gotta get to Baltimore to get home. So he's like, all right,
Which
I'll
is
call the
about the worst time to be doing that too, because that's where everyone else is going.
on a Thursday, right? And it's like,
Yep.
fuck, I know what's coming. So he calls the Uber. He didn't drive. So we're Ubering back to Baltimore from Dulles.
Together?
And yes.
Okay.
Oh, that'll
So
only take you a sec.
Yeah.
yeah. So I grab a water. I'm like, dude, like I need a water. He's like, we gotta go. Like I already called it. I was like, are you fucking joking me? Like I can't stop and get a water. I'm literally dying. But I didn't tell him all the stuff that happened. We get in the Uber. This guy picks us up. I don't really get car sick, but in the back seat, occasionally I might kind of get queasy. So I have basically no food in me because I was scared to eat because I'd shit it out. I have no water in me. I've pooped 10 times in the past 9 hours in like two different countries. And
You
I am
probably legit lost like 10 pounds.
I am literally
That's
like
what you wanted,
I'm
right?
Right.
so on edge. I'm so on edge. I can't even see straight. So we get in the Uber. I didn't end up getting a water. We get on to 495 and it is a
Parking lot.
parking lot.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my actual God, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. And I shouldn't have done this, but I did it. I plugged in our address that we were going to into the GPS as we're in the car. 2 hours and 48 minutes to get home. And I literally started hyperventilating. I literally was like, because I got poop. I kind of want to puke at this point. because I'm so dehydrated, like almost dry heave. I had an anxiety attack, like actually. And I know it's like funny now to say it, but in the moment
Oh
I
God.
was losing it. I couldn't even look at my phone because I was so sick to my stomach.
I know what you mean. Yep.
So I asked the Uber driver, like, hey, buddy, like, do you have any water? Because I'm gonna throw up. And I had the window down, and he's like, oh, like you don't look so good. I'm like, I don't feel
You're
good. And
like,
my
thanks. I feel
yeah,
even better right now, dude.
yeah, my boss is like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "No, dude. Like, you should have let me out what." So this guy gives me a pomegranate vitamin water. I fucking hate pomegranate.
Yeah.
I just don't. And he gives me like two little crackers to snack on. I am praying, like legitimately, like asking God to like save me for like 2.5 hours. Longest 2.5 hours of my life. I was sweating. I sweat through my fucking dress shirt the entire time. I got home and I actually like shed a tear. It was such a
Yeah, you
stressful
just
day.
start crying, right? Like when you're done.
I was like, oh my God, how did I just do that? It took us 2 hours and 45 minutes to get home. It was the worst day of my life. I felt the need to share that on the pod. That was awful. So if you're ever
Wow.
traveling overseas,
Wow.
watch out what you're eating for. Don't eat rare beef and buy water ahead of time. You might be all right.
Damn. I actually can't imagine like a more nightmarish travel scenario.
It was the worst, the
That's
actual
that's
worst.
tough. Yeah.
So I don't want to drag it on anymore, but I felt the need to share that with the audience because I don't ever want you to go through what I went through that day. So
I know we've
don't eat the
talked
rare
about it
beef.
as a QOTD in the past, but like, do you remember the one we did that was, would you rather never be hungover again or never have to move again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would move hungover 10 days in a row rather than go through what Harry just went
I
through.
agree. I agree. That sounds like an absolute fucking nightmare.
I appreciate the love and support. It means a lot to me. I'm alive. My stomach has recovered. Um, so yeah, it was just
And who did you get this tapeworm from? Just asking for a friend.
yeah, really. So that was fun. And took a couple days to recover, but we're all good now. So anyways, I hope you got a little laugh at that.
Well, speaking
Um,
of shit, why don't we
yeah.
start talking about the Los Angeles Kings?
Yes, exactly. It transitions perfectly into our news segment. So a lot of news to unpack here, but we're going to lead it off with the LA Kings, like Mac just said. They fired their head coach Todd McClellan. They replaced him with interim coach Jim Hiller for the rest of the season. This is just a little side note. McClellan he became the sixth NHL coach to get fired this season. The Oilers, Wild, Blues, and Islanders all have made changes as early as mid-November this year. The Kings started the season with a 27-4 record, 20 wins, 7 losses, 4 overtime losses, and they have only won 3 games since December 28th. We are recording this on February 6th. Boys,
I
what's
feel
going
like
on?
I feel like it's just gone from bad to worse to holy fuck in the last 3 episodes for the LA Kings, because we talked about it with Morgan. Mac and I talked about it at nauseum, the fact that they had lost 14 out of 16 last week when you were overseas, pre all the shit literally that happened to you. Um, yeah, it's not good. And I remember one of the things that the three of us said with Morgan was like, if this team falls out of a playoff spot, it's bad. Guys, they're only in the playoffs by 2 points right now. And Calgary and St. Louis, I think, could easily knock them out at this point.
Yeah, that's I know we said I think with Morgan we said it seemed a little too late in the season to fire your coach. I think this is about as late as it can get when you still might consider doing it. I do think it's interesting that they're just not even like gonna look for someone else. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense given how late it is. Just be like, fuck it, we're riding with the assistant coach. But like that does not inspire a ton of confidence. I don't know if a team has ever won a cup by just being like, fuck it, we'll have the assistant coach be the coach now and then win a cup.
It's
Seems unlikely, but
I think it really explains how much of a take the cartridge out and blow on it kind of move this is we don't know what else to do other than let's try this little reset real quick and see if that helps. Otherwise, toast.
yeah, I don't know. That's tough.
So there's a couple things that I just can't really wrap my head around is like, one, how this team is playing this bad, because not only do they have a good start, I think all three of us were saying like this is the dark horse to win the Stanley Cup this year. I know that was kind of a popular pick as like someone who wasn't in the top three in odds to win it. Secondly, they don't really score a lot of goals. I mean, if you look at some of the scores of their games in like the past month where things have really fallen apart, looks like, they've only scored more than 3 goals, maybe like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in the past month. That's not really great. I know, we talked with Morgan extensively about the goaltending situation. They can't fucking score goals. That's kind of a problem, right? So I don't know. I know I listened actually last week while I was shitting my brains out to the part where you guys were talking about the Kings, and I think you did a great job. So if you haven't listened to that breakdown already, you should. But I don't have much more to say that you guys didn't touch on already last week. We've beaten this to a dead horse almost.
Goaltending. I mean, we've said it 3 weeks in a row now. It is a problem for this hockey team.
Can't score. They can't keep the puck out of the net. The last time I checked, that's usually not a recipe for winning. So from bad to worse for the LA Kings. When is their next game? Let me see here. Because one of the
They
things
don't
that
play like all fucking week. They play
Seriously, they've
literally.
got like a week off.
They literally have a game Saturday, and that's it.
All right, I'm going to give a Harry lock of the week. This is what we're going to do. I've been sticking to my guns with this method. I always bet a team to win after a coaching change. It's just one of the things that I always ride. I feel like momentum's high. I can't remember if Patrick Waugh won his first game. I don't think he did, but neither here nor there. They play the Edmonton Oilers at home on Saturday, February 10th. The Oilers are as hot as you can get. They're going to make history this week potentially, but with a new coach going up against a tough opponent, I gotta imagine those boys are gonna be motivated. I think I'm gonna be taking the LA Kings on Saturday night to beat the Oilers.
What's tough about that is that's their first game in like 2+ weeks or something like that. So you never know
Brutal.
what you're gonna get, but I
It,
respect it.
it's tough, and if it wasn't for the coaching change, I wouldn't be betting it. But damn it, I'm gonna end up.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
don't
take
hate
it.
it. Yeah.
And we'll talk about this shortly, but if the Oilers win their next 2 games, they'll have already broken the record. Maybe the pressure's off. They don't, they kind of lollygag a little bit, but we'll see what happens. All right, so moving on from the LA Kings, we're going to chat another team that we've been talking about a lot lately. The Vancouver Canucks made some splashes right before All Star Weekend, which kind of made it funny because their newly acquired star player Elias Lindholm actually was a Vancouver Canuck at the All Star game. So the Flames had no representatives. Suck on that, Gary Bettman. The Canucks get Elias Lindholm from the Flames. The Canucks trade Andrei Kuzmenko. They have a couple prospects and picks that they traded too. I know you both are dying for me to try this name out, so I'm going to give it a whirl here. They traded Hunter Bruzetswicks.
It's about as close as I could get, man.
I feel like it's probably just like Brewstowitz.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Mac. For those who haven't seen this guy's name, the first 3 letters are BRZ. I don't even know what to do there, but Mac does. They trade Hunter, whatever Mac said. Joni Germo, 2024 first-round pick and a conditional 4th-round pick. I think it's worth noting that guy Hunter with the really hard last name
Honeybee.
is tearing it up with the Kitchener Rangers this year. I looked on his elite prospects page. He's on pace for 94 points this season as a defenseman. So
That
It's
team's
probably going to be a
unreal this
good
season.
trade. Probably going to be a good trade for both these teams. I think the Flames actually got a lot of good pieces there.
Yeah, Kuzmenko was definitely, I think, what was going to be moved out of Vancouver. I think that was just a foregone conclusion. But I think there were a lot of teams that would have gladly sacrificed a little bit this season to get a player like that into their roster. So do I think it's going to be the problem solver for the Flames? No. But I think this is a good deal for both teams.
So the big controversy here is like obviously the Canucks have been really good this season, but they are really pushing all the chips into the middle of the table. They give up Kuzmenko, 2 prospects, and potentially 2 picks, all for Elias Lindholm, who is not under contract after the end of this season. So they're going for the rental. And let's not forget, Elias Patterson's still a pending unrestricted free agent. He's going to back the truck up to the Vancouver bank. I don't know what bank they use in Vancouver, but he's going to probably rob them of all their cash. Do you think the Canucks should be a top 3 favorite to win the cup? Because they currently are not.
I think,
Yes.
yeah, I think this is the best chance a Canadian team has to win the Stanley Cup since the Vancouver Canucks were last in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I also think, like, to me, the Canucks need, like, when was the last, again, when you just answered, I was gonna say, when is the last time the Canucks had even like kind of a chance to win the Stanley Cup? And like, yeah, maybe there was a couple years after their 2011 run where they like had decent teams with the Sedins and stuff, but like they suddenly find themselves in the scenario. I don't blame them for being like, fuck it, this team is for some reason really fucking good. Let's just like lean into it. I think
Gotta
it's the right
go. You
move.
gotta
Yeah.
go now. Like you can't not. Like you can't pass this up. I'm glad they
Yeah.
like recognize like, hey, we have to buy at the deadline. Like,
Yep.
are we gonna sacrifice down the road? Sure, but like we gotta go now. And
Yep.
I think what sets them apart from other Canadian teams we've seen put together in the past, in my opinion, is simply goaltending. If you know that team gets into a playoff situation, Thatcher Demko can win you games by himself.
Speaking of which, did you see him deny the hug from Swayman or whatever
Yep.
at the
Oh,
All
yeah.
Star
Yeah.
game? I kind
That's
of
good.
respect it. Somebody, a Canucks fan, quote tweeted it and was like, "Attaboy, Demko knows Bruins and Canucks history. He ain't doing that."
I saw that, and like now that like we're like post All-Star game and like all that stuff has come up, I'm kind of like manifesting, let's get a little bit of like 2011 Cup final nonsense going
That would be
again here.
fun.
I would be so in to see
Canucks
a
Bruins would be
repeat.
so fun,
Yeah. I'm
especially
all
if
for
the
that.
Canucks won this time.
Yeah.
Elias Lindholm just scored in his first game as a Canuck.
There we
breaking,
go.
Yeah.
Breaking news. So, and he's on my fantasy team. That made out nice.
Also, breaking news: Alexander Ovechkin scored a hockey goal.
He has, but
Oh.
that's not news.
More
Oh,
breaking
well,
news.
this year it is.
Jeff Carter actually scored an NHL hockey goal. So that's real
That
news.
is really
That's
breaking
news.
That is
Yeah.
real news.
Wow.
I agree with you guys, and here's why. You got Elias Patterson on a reasonable deal right now, and in about 8 months, it will no longer be a reasonable deal. So while you can afford it, I say push the chips in. I love the move. Rick Tocchet, I love him as a coach. I think he's done a great job in Vancouver. I think anybody with a brain cell knows that. Should they be top 3 favorites? Yes, currently. I just said it to you guys earlier. It's Oilers, Avalanche, Bruins. Don't necessarily agree with all of that. I will say this. I don't think the Canucks are actually going to win the Stanley Cup. I think that they should be considered to.
That's
but I
fair.
don't think they will.
I'm not saying I think they will, but I definitely think they could. Like, I don't think it's like fake and that they're going to lose in the first round. I think they're like legit and they will make a strong push and could win.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, with every other version of the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's who are they going to draw in the first round? That's the most important thing, and how they do, and whether that builds them up for later or tears them down for later, you know, we have to wait and see. But I agree with Mac in the sense that I feel like they are the most well equipped to go win a Stanley Cup as a Canadian team. And that includes what McDavid did in, you know, the Battle of Alberta. What was that, 2 or 3 years ago? I just feel like they have a better hockey team.
Also, Caps will sign Lindholm this offseason. Mark my words. Straight up. I actually think they will.
So I want to ask one more question about the Knox, and then we'll cover some quick news points. I'm trying to think of a team in the recent memory who won a Stanley Cup where like the 2 or 3 years before that, they really were just like mid fringe, non-borderline playoff teams. And that's kind of one, I can't think of any, and that's kind of one of the reasons I'm like, I don't think they'll win it. It just seems too much, too fast, too easy. Like, you got to have a little more tiers.
Really, the only one I can think of is the Blues.
I was just going to say kind of St. Louis, but even them, they had like some pretty decent teams before that. Like,
and then like Montreal during the Mickey Mouse one where they went to the final, but obviously
that doesn't count.
There's a ton of teams that have gone to the final, and you look at their year or two prior and they weren't very good. Like that, I think is fair. But
even St. Louis, St. Louis would be the most comparable, but like they still were making playoffs,
right? Like they were still getting in, even as like a 3 seed at like a couple years before that. I think they're just so hit or miss every year. They'll like be a 2 seed and then they'll be like 9th in their, you know, their conference or something.
Back in the day. But yeah, Nucks pushing their chips in on the table. It should be a fun little finish for them. Currently tied with the Bruins for best record in the league also. So just wanted to make note of that. The Canadians, we're speaking of Canadian teams, Mr. Canadian himself. The Canadians traded Sean Monahan to the Winnipeg Jets for a 2024 first and conditional 2027 third round pick. I don't think this guy's ever played for an American team.
Thank God that happened, because I saw some rumors about the Caps like having some interest in him. It's nothing against him, but if we were about to give up a first rounder and more for fucking Sean Monahan, I would have killed myself.
That's the most notable thing here, is that Montreal probably just pulled off one of the greatest fleeces of all time. And even if the Winnipeg Jets go on to win a Stanley Cup this year,
They could.
Don't get me wrong, especially, I mean, you want to talk about goaltending with Vancouver.
You want to talk about Canadian teams that have a chance? They could.
Right. Yeah. Winnipeg's a whole different story, but the fact that they got a first round pick for Sean Monahan, who I think it's safe to say has consistently underperformed since leaving Calgary and even the last 3 years in Calgary, that's a win.
I saw people tweeting being like, holy shit, if this is what the haul was for Monahan, this is about to be a wild trade deadline.
Yeah, seriously. It's a seller's market, that's for sure.
It's got the wheels in my head turning about what Gensel would haul.
Low key gets me. I'm like, okay, Nick Dowd and Anthony Mantha, you guys are out here.
Right. If Monahan's a first rounder,
then I'm like, dude, Nick Dowd is. You saw what Jeannot got last year, and people freaked out. I feel like Nick Dowd could like double that with how useful he is. But
sure.
Anyway.
The Chicago Blackhawks, they will be hosting the 2025 NHL Winter Classic against the St. Louis Blues that just came over.
I'm really tired all of a sudden.
It's pretty boring, Matt. Like, neither team's good. Like, I wish they kind of like made this a little more of a.
It's literally them being like, oh my God, Bedard. He's gonna
get
Bedard
Classic. Into a nationally televised Winter Classic is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's
shit.
Not surprising. It's just like, God.
Also, like a Wrigley Field. Okay, we've already done that before. It's like, all right, whatever.
So I didn't see if they announced did they announce the stadium?
It's at Wrigley.
Yeah. Which that was like the one in 2009, right?
Yeah, they've
done Chicago against the Red Wings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like that sounds right.
Yeah. God, put Detroit back in the West.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll make you guys a bunch of money. Congrats. Right. I'm sure I won't care.
Well, if the Thrashers come back, maybe they move them to the West.
Yeah.
Good. They better. They fucking better.
We'll see. Evgeny Kuznetsov has entered the NHL Player Assistance Program and will be out of the Capitals lineup for the foreseeable future. The floor is yours.
Best wishes. Get well, 92. Best wishes to him and the fam. Obviously, we don't know what's going on. Don't want to speculate, but whatever he's going through, hopefully they can help him out and everything.
Agree. Yep. Wholeheartedly. Not much to add. Just want to say a lot of jokes about this on Twitter. Not very funny, in my opinion. Wishing the guy well, and hopefully he's on the path forward.
And to address those jokes a little bit, we know that the issue, or I would think the issue is not that, because you would think that maybe the focus would be there a little bit more if that was the issue. So I don't know, just do your math.
Either way, just never that. I mean, obviously we've joked about Kuznetsov like being like shitty or whatever before, and like that's kind of different to me, but like knowing wholeheartedly that the guy is like seeking help and then still making fun of him is a little cringe to me. I don't know. I think
absolutely
kind of shitty, but
guy absolutely deserved the Conn Smythe in 18. I'll die on that hill.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, obviously wishing him well. Yeah, it's always tough seeing people make fun of a guy who's trying to make a change. But people love to get those retweets, as we all know. So, all right, we are not going to go too deep into this because we talk about this team every single week, but we have to keep an update on it. The Oilers, they could tie the NHL all-time win streak record tonight as we're recording this. So when you're listening to it, you'll know whether they have tied it or not. With a win on the road against Vegas here in about 2 hours. The record is currently held by the 92-93 Penguins, who won 17 games in a row. that team is arguably one of the best teams of all time on paper. A lot of people would say that, which is kind of funny because when you look at this Oilers team, I don't think many people would say that. The Oilers have a chance to tie it tonight against Vegas, as I just said, and should they win, they will have their chance to beat it on Friday, February 6th on the road in Anaheim. Now that I'm reading this out loud, I will double down on my take that I just said like 20 minutes ago. If the Oilers break the record, hammer the shit out of the LA Kings Saturday night to beat them because they'll already have the record under their belt. Coaching change, boys are fired up, back to back for Edmonton. I love LA in that spot. I'll just reemphasize that.
I think it would be so unbelievably hilarious if they tie the record by beating Vegas as good as they are and then lose to the Ducks.
And their two most significant losses of the season are to the San Jose Sharks and the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, that's hockey, baby. We'll see.
I fully expect these guys to tie it tonight. I don't know. I mean, I know they're even coming off of a week break, but
I kind of like Vegas tonight for some reason.
I have a feeling they tie it tonight, and then whatever happens in that game against Anaheim is a coin flip, in my opinion. Because you know the Ducks are basically going to go into that locker room and be like, "Okay, Stanley Cup final,
Literally,
game
they're
7
like, "Hey,
tonight.
look, we have something to play for.
Like
That
you
kinda
guys
matters."
live in
Yeah.
Newport Beach, you are absolutely crushing it, literally off the ice. Play one game that matters this season and just beat the fucking Oilers tonight."
It's just crazy to me that this
Also,
Oilers
it's a Friday
team,
night. They beat the Oilers, and then they get to go out in Cali after. Like,
Right.
yeah. Well, I don't know if they're traveling or whatever, but
it's crazy that this Oilers team that we just dismantled 2 months ago is potentially going to break the all. I would never have guessed that. But
can I dismantle them again real quick?
yeah, I'm assuming you want to talk about the odds. I'll let
go
you
ahead.
take it.
Yeah, lead me in. Lead me in.
I'll lead you in. All right. The Oilers have skyrocketed in the sports books as the Cup favorite, somewhere in the plus 700 to plus 800 range. I sent you guys the graphic today from the Score. The Oilers are quite literally the odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup in a neck-and-neck battle against Colorado and Boston. Mac, the floor is yours.
Vegas, not the Vegas Knights, but like the Vegas odds makers are so unbelievably stupid for this. Like, let me just put this in perspective for you for a second. The fact that the Oilers are the number one favorite to win the cup right now just means that the Vegas odds makers don't understand hockey at all. They don't.
It's bait.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people will take it. So you could make that argument that if they don't need to understand the game, they understand the odds making and they know how to make money. And yeah, that's probably all true. But I just think this is laughable because they are currently the 10th overall best team in the National Hockey League. They still do not have the pieces, in my opinion, to go on a cup run. They don't have the goaltending. They don't it's bait, exactly what you said. It's like, can anyone take this like bait because they're so hot right now? But also, you would think like, why put them number one then? Because that, like, I don't know, any smart gambler seems like the number one thing, and they're like, well, what's a better value than that? I'm not going to take the biggest favorite.
Any
like,
smart gamblers looked at that goaltending and said, that's not going to hold up.
Well, that too. I just don't. The whole thing is so fucking stupid to me. They're the 10th best team in the league. Like, let me read all the teams that have a better record than them: Vancouver, Boston, Colorado, Florida, Dallas, Winnipeg, New York Rangers, Vegas, Carolina. All those teams on paper in the standings are better than the Oilers. In what world do they have? And I'm not saying like live or die by the standings. I get like, some teams have a better chance than others. But in what world do the Oilers have a better chance than like pretty much any of those teams to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, a bunch of the teams you just named, I picked the Oilers losing to in a 7-game playoff series.
Yeah, same.
I think
maybe
I could
even
name
in like
two.
5.
Yeah. I think 2 of the teams you named, maybe I would say the Oilers would beat, but the other 8, yeah, I would agree.
I agree.
7.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, that is very silly. That's not.
All
the
right,
word
I'm gonna ask 2 questions.
That's what I'll say.
I'm gonna ask 2 questions that are one-word answers, and then we can move on.
Okay.
7-game series. Canucks have home ice. Canucks versus Oilers. Who are you taking?
Canucks.
Okay. Who has a better chance to win the Stanley Cup? They may or may not go head-to-head, the Canucks or the Oilers.
Canucks.
The Canucks.
Okay. Just want to know what you guys are thinking.
And like honestly, like you talk about head-to-head matchup for a second. Yeah, it comes down to Demko. That's the bottom line. You
Yeah,
know,
I agree.
you could put Bedard on the Oilers, and I would still take the Canucks.
I agree.
I feel
They
like I
already-
should side with you guys, but in my brain, I'm like, dude, Edmonton has they've been there, right? They've
Yeah.
gone the dis
I
they've
get
gone
that.
deep a couple times. So I'm like, they know how to play in the playoffs. Canucks not as much,
Yeah, it's
but
not worth nothing.
on paper, I would agree, especially goaltending, because I feel like Skinner's got to fall off here.
He's not gonna. Yeah, there's no way.
I just,
So,
you know, if you're asking me to put money behind a goaltender in the playoffs, Stuart Skinner is not in the top 10 on that list.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you for that. All right, last little tidbit of news, and then we'll move on to discussion. Rookie Adam Fantilli will miss the next 8 weeks due to a calf laceration. That is nasty. Fantilli, the 19-year-old, 12 goals, 27 points through 49 games in his rookie campaign with Columbus. Best wishes to him in his recovery.
thanks for that trade. Should I drop him?
Yes.
I
eight-
think, yeah, you should probably do
8 weeks is 2 months. April 6th is
He would
basically
literally only come back and help me if I was like in the semifinals,
And
which I will be.
let's be real. Is Adam Fantilli going to be the difference maker to put you over the hump in the semifinals?
Probably not, but also he's not taking up I mean, he's on my IR. He's not
There you
really
go.
taking up a spot. I'm probably gonna wait until somebody else gets hurt. We'll see.
There you go.
All
This,
right,
I mean,
well,
this kind of sucks real quick before we move on because aren't
Sure.
all three of the front runners for the Calder hurt right now?
Yeah, we were talking about the this draft class like made of glass or something.
yeah, I still think Bedard's gonna win it, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't see a world where he's not gonna get it eventually. But all right, we are gonna move on to the discussion portion of the episode. I know Nick touched on this in the intro, but we had Nick Bowins come on to help us recap the All Star Game weekend. He was actually there in person, so we got to hear a little bit about it. And then we're gonna chat some big international news that I know we are very excited to talk about. But before we get to the discussion portion with Bowens, I know Nick has a word from Kane Footwear.
Yeah, I actually just got off the phone with Fance, and he not only said that he should have gone to a green and white school instead of a maize and blue one, but he said that the only reason he might have a chance of helping Mac advance to the Empty Betters Fantasy Hockey Championship this season is because he's planning on coming back from his injury soon by using his Kane Revives made from bounce back foam with sugarcane technology from Kane Footwear. So head to the link in our bio today to get a pair of the most comfortable shoes you will ever own. Boys, I've been using these a lot. I know I've sent you guys a couple snaps. I've been absolutely ripping up the shooting pad lately, dusting the abundance of cobwebs off, but they're starting to come off nicely. I can't tell you how much help the Canes have been out there, especially on the knees and on the back. And as you guys know, the lower back. So it's been absolutely smooth sailing thanks to Kane Footwear once again.
They've been crushing some new colorways too, so go check those out. And shout out to whoever my dad's physical therapist is. He's been hooking people up with them using our link, so appreciate that. That's always nice to hear.
Oh, your dad's got a foot guy? My dad's foot guy said, "Oh, you should be wearing Canes or Hokas." And my dad's like, "Oh, I've got Canes."
Yeah, incredible. It's funny how that works.
I've got both. Hoka's roll too.
There you go.
They're both great. All right, we're gonna do the discussion portion with Bones in the All-Star Game, then we'll come back with some international news. We're gonna do that right now.
All right, everyone, it's time to recap that All-Star weekend we just had. We had the draft was brought back this year. That was awesome. We had a fantastic skills competition, and we had a great All-Star game. And to help us recap, we have creator, founder of Hockey Collective, Mr. Nick Bowins with us, who had boots on the ground for all the festivities. So Nick, glad to have you on the show once again. How was your time this weekend back in Toronto?
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. It was awesome to have the game in Toronto. The buzz, the energy was just different than it's been in past years. And yeah, boots were on the ground. Boots are definitely worn through after all the events that happened the last week.
So what would you say, just like right off the bat, if you had to pick one thing from the weekend was the coolest moment for you? Because we saw you mixing it up with Willie, mixing it up with Bedard. I mean, that had to be unreal.
Those were two big ones. Shout out to Sherwood, our partner at Hockey Collective. They're the reason for that. They're the reason we were sitting fourth row at the All-Star game. So Sherwood, shout out to you guys. Thank you. But for me, it's got to be the Gretzky's Basement exhibit. Not sure how much you guys saw that. It ended up everywhere, which was awesome and cool that they got that much coverage. But it's basically, Walter's got a famous setup at home for all of Wayne's trophies and memorabilia and everything in the basement. They rented out a house downtown, kind of set it up there. Upstairs, they had a podcast studio, so that's where Chicklets was filming. My buddies, Empty Netters, were filming there. They had a couple people different in and out all week, but that was an awesome exhibit. And just you walk in there, and the names and the faces that are in a place like that was crazy. Like Keith Yandel was there when we were, Sebastian Aho was there when we were, and it's small, right? It's a downtown Toronto house. You can maybe fit 20 people in there, and you look around, and it's all 20 of these are far more famous than I ever will be. So that was cool. And then my buddy Jesse Kirschenbaum, who was doing some of the apparel for it, he's good friends with Gretzky's sons. So he introduced me to Gretzky's sons, and actually all three of them follow Hockey Collective. So that was just like a crazy moment to hear Gretzky's sons say, "Hey man, love what you're doing," and I'm just like drooling a little bit and like trying to wipe it up and shake his
Hey
hand.
man, love your dad.
Yeah, actually, I've heard of you guys. Yeah, so it was that was the coolest thing for me to kind of see the history, the memorabilia, everything there, plus the people that were there, and get that kind of nod of recognition from Tyler and Trevor Gretzky in particular there.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, great. Sounds like a great weekend for you and the team. And that Sherwood pump is obviously always a nice thing to have in your back pocket. Unreal Seats too saw those. I want to ask you about your thoughts on the skills competition. The format kind of changed. I think last year McDavid had suggested that there be some type of change, and I think a lot of people have pointed it out. Will probably be like the 1,000th brand to point this out. He changed it, and then he won it, and he pocketed $1 million. So not too shabby, right? But what'd you think of that?
Dude, I loved it, and it's always gotten a bit of a bad rap in years past. But my whole thing with the skills competition is like, I don't know what you guys' favorite skills memories are, but it's from when you were a kid, right? Like that's what that competition is made for. I feel like every time I go on Twitter around All-Star time, it's like 35-year-old dudes going, "Oh, shots aren't as hard as they used to be," like bitching about that stuff. And it's like, man, that's not made for you guys. Like that is for kids, and that's exactly who's there. The game was, mixed crowd, everybody's kind of there. That's the big event. But the skills competition, man, it's teams there in their jerseys. It's kids with their parents who have saved up to go to that. And that's what that event is to me. It's for kids. And being a kid at heart myself, I loved it. Like I know there's gonna be the long commercial breaks. I know there's gonna be the confusion on the rulings and when they change what passed a shot and how long Willie and Hughes skated for. Like you're gonna have that confusion when you're in the arena. But I mean, it's cool to see those guys do what they do at such an elite level. Like the night opened with fastest skater and McDavid doing his thing, right? Like that's how you start off a good night in an arena, is watching McDavid do a hot lap around the ice, right? So it was awesome. And then the three dudes in particular that like honestly that I bet on and that I thought looked the best all night were McDavid, Makar, Barzell. And just watching the three of them, like they were just different because they were trying in every event, Kucherov. So it was cool to see those dudes, right? And yeah, I mean, right down to the wire, right? McDavid, he could have lollygagged a little bit, finished second in the last obstacle course and still won out. But what did he do? He went balls to the wall, set the best time, and took home the prize, right? Like there was no coast anything in him. He went out and proved to everybody that he is better than McKinnon, regardless of what TSN says.
I think you make a great point about like this kind of being for the kids, because obviously, there's you alluded to it. We'll talk about it, but like the Kucherov thing, kind of phoning it in versus like what McDavid did, and I think like it comes to a point where some of these players they have to like think of it exactly how you just said it, where it's like from the Kucherov perspective, he's thinking like, oh, why should I have to do this? I already like worked so hard during the year. Everyone else is on vacation. I just want to be on vacation, whatever it is that he's thinking, versus like McDavid, who seems to kind of get it. And it's like, you know what? This isn't really about me. This is like actually for like kids to see like, oh, you have to try hard in practice and you have to try hard when you don't feel like it. And you have to like do all these things where it's like, just setting a good example for like the future of hockey. So I think you make a great point there.
100%, man. I totally think that event is for the kids, and that's the way it should be. Like, I feel like we're getting down a rabbit hole, but like the internet in general, everybody thinks that everything's for them, right?
Yep.
You see an ad you don't like, you're like, oh, what is that? You see a movie premiere, whatever trailer, oh my God, why am I getting that? It's not made for you, brother. Like that's it, right? So,
Yeah.
the 50-year-old who's complaining that, oh, nobody's pointing like Owen Nolan was back in my day. It's not made for you, man. It's made for the kids that were there. And I honestly thought, and from everybody that I talked to at the event, this was the best skills competition in years.
I actually enjoyed the format, I will be honest.
Yeah.
And the weekend as a whole, I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I didn't mind it. Like, it actually kind of kept me entertained. It was decent. I have to ask though, because I think you just touched on it. Kucherov. What was the
Yeah.
building like? What were people saying in the building? Like, you obviously got to see it live. How slow did it actually look?
It was like It was really bad, obviously, but it's interesting in the building, they don't blow a whistle or make an announcement or play a horn when guys start. So a lot of times I would be filming fastest skater, obstacle course, whatever passing, and I'd be cropping it, I'd be editing it on my phone. My buddy would smack me and I'd look up and boom, next guy's halfway around the ice already, right? So I didn't realize Kucherov had started. I think it was the passing one. I didn't realize he'd started. And like 20 seconds in, my buddy was like, oh my God, he's still there. And I was like, holy shit, like, is he trying? And then I don't know, he played into it through the course of the weekend, right? Giving the
Yeah.
fans the waves and playing into it, which I respect a little bit. But yeah, man, like there was 10 players, right, participated. You got to make sure you have 10 guys that want to be there. He clearly did not want to be there. I would imagine this is the last time that he gets the call for the skills comp because it's all for fun and games. And if you don't want to have fun with it, kick rocks.
And I think that's a great way to put it. I mean, you were obviously there. I was watching it on TV, and it looked like that guy did not give one single fuck whatsoever. And I know what that's like because I've seen Evgeny Kuznetsov move the puck from one end of the ice to the other and just not care what he's doing. But this was on a different level. I felt like it looked like he was miserable. It looked like a kid in summer school that's like, I'm just going to run this clock out until I don't have to be here anymore, kind of thing. So I'm sure the reception he got was deserved. And, I'm sure there's also hundreds of guys in the NHL that could have been the next guy in that would have absolutely busted their hump for it too, which sucks.
And again, like, I understand there's lots of guys who don't want to go to the All Star game. Obviously, we've seen Ovi opt out of it many, many times before, but it's almost like, dude, if you really don't want to be there, opt out. Like, I kind of respected Ovi doing that all those years because he's like, no, I'm taking the suspension, I'm taking the time off. Like, I'd rather you do that than show up and like just be selfish and be a dick and like
Yeah,
pout
like
and like throw a tantrum, basically. Be like,
what
oh, this
Kucherov
sucks. Why am
did
I here?
is worth more of a suspension in my mind than what Ovi does.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it was really interesting. I listened to 32 Thoughts today, and Friedman said that in all seriousness, he has heard from people who have Hart Trophy votes
yep.
that they think Kucherov will lose votes over his performance at the skills comp.
Wow.
I definitely don't think that should be a thing or the
Okay,
case at
good.
all. But I do wonder if, like if he was like, huh, if I take the 1 game suspension and it comes out that I didn't want to be there, does that impact it? And then he goes and he doesn't try. Like
Right.
it was just a really interesting thing, I thought, but that's total bullshit if anybody changes their
For
vote over
sure.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little extreme. That's a little fucked.
Well, and in his defense, I saw a bunch of people on Twitter who are absolute degenerates betting on this. There were so many people like bet him to score the first goal in the All Star game, and sure shit, he scored 10 seconds into the game, and people were cashing. I'm like, this is unbelievable because, and I don't know if you saw this. I think they asked him about it after the game. They're like, oh, it looks like you have more pep in your step, and he played with it, and he was like, yeah, after my performance yesterday, I had to come out firing. So I respect that he kind of at least, tried the game. But
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I think there's just so many guys that would do it and would go all out. I don't know. top of my head who it would have been, but moving forward, I think they'll be very sure that everybody in the skills comp wants to be there because it stands out.
Last thing I'll say about it, and then we can move on. It almost seemed like what he was doing by not trying in the skills was trying to make some sort of a statement about like, this doesn't matter. It's all a bunch of bullshit. And it's like, dude, this isn't your big chance to like make a statement about, like, again, it's just selfish. It's like, just fucking do the thing. And like,
It's for the fans.
yeah, exactly. Like, just have a fucking heart for a second. I get it. I get that the players probably don't give a shit. Even McDavid probably doesn't give a shit if he wins $1 million, if he wins a skills competition or whatever. But it's about like understanding like the moment for the fans and like giving back a little bit. So that's the last thing I'll say.
Let's switch gears a little bit here. It was a very well attended event in terms of the celebrities that were there. Obviously, we had the 4 celebrity captains. I think it's great to see the NHL sort of involving pop culture a little bit more. I think, we've talked about this at length. That's probably one of the quickest ways to, attract and solidify a new fan base here. What were your thoughts on that with how they did as the captains for these teams?
Yeah, I think everybody was kind of hard on Will Arnett being there and Michael Bublé being there, right? People kind of understood Tate McRae, Justin Bieber, they're big names, whether you like them or not. But I think, Bublé, he had his moments, he had his viralities. So that, from the NHL standpoint, was a win, right? And then Will Arnett, like, I don't. I don't know if it's because he's more of a voice guy than an actor, but I feel like a lot of people don't realize who he is, and then they go, "Oh my God, I've watched everything that he's in."
Right.
We were at the Spit and Chicklets live show on, Thursday night, and he came out on stage and he crushed it, and he like fit in well with them, told some funny stories. Like, I think his reputation amongst hockey fans went way up this weekend too. So, I mean, I think they crushed it, and I told you boys last time we talked, and I've said it to just about everybody, like, they needed to crush this one because it was in Toronto, and that's exactly what they did. Like, living in the city, being around the city, the only other time in my life that I've seen the city that kind of rowdy and engaged was when the Raptors won the championship. Like, that's what
Wow.
Subban compared it to. That's what Friedman compared it to. That's what little old me compares it to. So, it was a different energy in the city, and it's cool seeing all our reporter friends, media friends, etc., from the US come up and say, you know what, I still hate the Leafs, but I get why this is different now, and things like that. I saw Johnny Lazarus tweeted like, this is like pulling up to a basketball game in New York City because there's just ODRs everywhere that you can pull up, play shinny, do anything, right? And a bunch of people were saying stuff like that. So I think Toronto, this was a huge weekend for the city as a whole.
Beebs taking warm-ups. Thoughts?
Love it, dude. Love it. I mean, you saw the video of every single player on all 4 teams coming up to take a picture with them. Like, it is so cool. And like, I think Haley Bieber actually had a quote where like him and Austin are such good friends because they want each other's lives. And I think that video was perfectly encapsulating that, right?
That's so accurate. That's
It's
not even
so
funny.
true.
It's so true, and right, it's like the age-old
Wow.
adage of like basketball players want to be rappers and rappers want to be basketball players, right? So it's
Yeah.
the same thing, and I think they live a little vicariously through each other. But boys, we would have been absolutely kids in candy store if we were out there getting to warm up in the All-Star game. So he should be too, right?
Yeah.
I always think it's funny when you see like NHL players who we would get starstruck over, like getting starstruck over, someone who's on such a bigger platform like Bieber or Tate McRae than, some random guy who grew up in Saskatchewan and is now playing, professional hockey, gets to hang out with those. I always
Or
love
even the
that.
times that you see like Messi or some big like international other sport star come in and like take in a game and take a pic with a, like, I think Ovi and Messi did it at one point, but like stuff like that, it's, you're right, it's weird to see NHLers get starstruck because we think of them as the stars, but like
Right. Like
they are kind of smaller fish when it comes to that stuff.
there was the one they did in, I think it was in San Jose, and they brought Snoop into like the locker room, and I think it was like Kasperi Kapanen or someone somehow snuck into the, the All-Star game that year, and you see Kasperi Kapanen like dapping up with Snoop Dogg. I'm like, yep, did not expect to see that one today at
Yeah,
all.
or ever in my lifetime. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so many people again were hating on Bieber being there and his music sucks and Tate McRae, she's 21, why is she dancing like that? Like it again, it's just not for you, man. Like if that's what you think, it's not for you, it's for somebody else. So I mean it's gigantic to have Bieber there. People can hate it if they want, but that has to be the biggest celebrity that's ever been
Yeah.
involved with the game, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
For
I think it's
sure.
sick.
it's
He
crazy.
he hasn't performed, I think I read on in like 2 years, and then he did a little live performance, at the arena. I don't know when it was, but I saw it because
Yeah.
Complex Music on Instagram, who's a giant page, reposted
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah, I know he's had some health issues and canceled his tour for a while and stuff like that. But I mean, you're right. That's just in general to have him there is crazy, and it's only doing good things for growing the game. So can't be mad
Since
at that.
Instagram followers is the measure of every successful human being, be sure to follow Hockey Collective, by the way. Connor McDavid has 1.1 million. Alex Ovechkin has 1.6 million. What do you guys think Justin Bieber has on Instagram?
Oh, it's
I look, so
Like,
I think I have a
is it
good
like 100 million or something
It's like,
like that?
160 or something
oh my
crazy.
Jesus
God.
Christ.
293 million. Like
Oh
Oh
that
my
just
Oh,
God.
That's almost
Jesus
the population
Christ.
of the US. Like that just puts it into perspective, right? Like it makes sense McDavid is fanboying over him. It makes
Yeah.
sense
yeah.
Elias Lindholm wants to come get a picture with him, right? Like Bieber is another level, and that was such a big get for the
Well, again, if
NHL.
you're the NHL, you see that and you're like, dude, like if he posts even one story while he's
Yeah,
here, like
Yeah.
do the
yeah.
math.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, it's nuts. And
or if you're the NHL, you're also looking at what just happened with Taylor Swift in the NFL, and you're like, how many random people who never gave a fuck about football now care because she does? Maybe the same thing could happen with Bieber, where it's like, don't give a
Right.
fuck. He posts, oh my god, cool, I love hockey now, like that
yeah.
kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. So they're trying to set Kale McCarr up with Tate McRae's. That'll be
Yeah.
their
I
Travis and
thought you were
Taylor
gonna say
moment.
they're
Lucky
trying
Kel
to set
McCarr.
Kel McCarr up with Justin Bieber. I was like, wait a minute.
Love
Whatever works, boys, right?
Yeah,
love
whatever at this point.
loved her performance. We'll leave it at that. So moving on. You talk about like the photos, we talk about getting starstruck, and obviously I'm going to shift this conversation towards my favorite player, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, but Biebs gets a picture with McKinnon and Crosby, and he's like leaning towards Sid, and someone tweeted the photo and was like, it kind of looks like he's going to crop McKinnon out of this picture. He has wants nothing to do with him. He just wants the picture with Sid. Then Bieber posted on Instagram, he cropped out McKinnon, and it's like the funniest fucking thing in the world because everyone's like, "Yo, dude, the MVP is on your right shoulder, and you just took him out of the picture."
Right.
So I just thought that was funny. And then in the locker room, obviously, like Sid comes up in his suit. What meanwhile, Matthews and Nylander pulling up in like Jordans and jeans, and like Bieber just kind of like goes like this, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I just thought that was so funny because it's just so weird how it works.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I will play devil's advocate on that photo one. I think that's kind of just how Bieber stands in photos. If you look at him
Oh.
in all the pictures with the guys, he's a bit of an ankle bender, fellas. He's turning the one foot like this, so he's leaning this way.
Oh
So that was in a lot of the photos, but the way it looks is absolutely like he said, Nate Dogg, get out of here.
Yeah, he didn't make the cut.
It's funny.
I
It's
did
great.
see a lot of people, because Beebs posted that picture, took a picture with all the Leaf guys, and a lot of people I think were just blown away at how much bigger all the Leafs guys are
Yeah.
compared to Justin Bieber. And they're like, I didn't realize, pro hockey players were that big.
Yeah, that was definitely a realization for a lot of people. But yeah, Bieber's like, I think it says 5'7" online, but let me
Yeah.
tell you, he's not 5'7". And then Matthews is like 6'3", 220, and will eat your head off if you wanted to.
Yep.
What were your opinions on how the whole draft went? They bring the selection draft back this year. Obviously, we had all the funny memes of, Ovi wanting to be last and getting the car, Phil being last and getting the car. Seems like they had some audio issues during the production part of that. Were you like in attendance for that?
Yeah, we were, probably 20, 30 rows up behind the stage, and it was a little bit difficult to hear and see. The stage being white causes a lot of light reflection, and you're trying to see across it to who's still available. So that was a little bit tricky, but I thought it was fine. I don't know. I don't know how they can make that one much better unless they just let the guys get pounded again like they did back in the day, just bringing out constant drinks. So it was interesting. I heard McDavid and Matthews both say that they couldn't hear shit when they were out there. So they were like, is it my turn? Has he been taken? Like, what's happening? I did wonder, and this may be a little naive of a question, but like, it had to be scripted, right? Like the
I think you
choices,
kind of have to at this point,
because they
right?
came out with jerseys with the names on it
I was
2 seconds.
thinking the exact same thing. I was like, how did they know unless they made a jersey for every guy in all
That
four
was our
colors,
thought.
which
Yeah.
seems really fucking unlikely and wasteful. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, they have to have already pre-drafted it, and then they were just gonna go through and do that. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought that was interesting though, because there was like the mess up of, oh, we're taking Besser. Oh no, you have to take a goalie. They take
Right.
the goalie, they take Besser. So I was like, maybe it's not scripted, but yeah, like Matthews says the name, and 2 seconds later, Buddy's coming out of the tunnel with a blue jersey that says Marner on
Yeah,
it,
it was
right?
right,
personalized or
Oh.
something.
Yeah, it's like, all right, huh.
I mean, if they were gonna
Or
do
even like
that,
the numbers, like for example, Forsberg and Keller both wear number 9. They both ended up on the same team, I think. So I'm like, they had to have at least had some discussion ahead of time. Who's going to wear 9? Who's taking something out? Like
They both did.
they both wear 9.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
I
confusing.
think they
I
just
didn't even
doubled
realize
up.
that. That's
The
wild.
Doubled up.
the announcers kept calling Trocheck Marner, and it was like, come on.
Yeah,
Marner's
Sean
as pale
McDonough
as
was-
it gets, and
the
Trocheck is
fuck?
basically as tan as it gets with a giant handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah, Sean McDonough was very he was reminding all the listeners during the broadcast about how confusing it is that there's duplicate numbers. That's the only reason I knew that, Mac.
It is. I don't know why they did that. It's extremely confusing. I didn't watch the actual game, so
My last question for you in terms of the All-Star game, you talk about the draft. Obviously, Sidney Crosby skips the draft, and our good friend, Mr. Frank Saravelli, has a couple comments about that let's just say ruffled up the internet a little bit. He said on his podcast, and I quote, I think it's garbage that year in and year out at All-Star Weekend, that when he decides to show up and play, Sidney Crosby doesn't get more heat from everyone. Why is it that every other NHL All-Star can show up and participate in the player draft, but Crosby does it and no one says boo about it? What are your thoughts on this take? I will not hate you no matter what you say.
I think Frank needs to find some more pressing issues to get upset over personally, but I'm also a big fan of Frank's work, so
I'm
Yeah,
also
yeah.
like coming from like the biggest, like I will look for any opportunity to hate on Crosby. Like
Yep.
I'll tell you exactly why you're asking why no one gives him flack, because he's Sidney Crosby and he's like he can do whatever he wants. Like it's that simple. Like
Oh, if it's Gino, totally different story.
it just it like, what do you mean? That's a rhetorical question. Like Sid can do whatever he wants, and you're not really allowed to get mad at him. Like, it's kind of, I don't know. That's
interesting.
my answer.
It was interesting. I actually ran into him on the street about half an hour after he said that, and I hadn't seen the clip yet, and I really wish I had of. I just said like, "Oh, Frank, anything to break for us today, bud?" And he's like, "Oh no, it's been a bit of a crazy afternoon, though." And I didn't know what he was saying at the time.
Now it makes
it's like
sense.
it's been a
But now it
crazy
makes
afternoon.
sense.
This guy named Harrison's in my DMs trying to kill me.
I did tweet at him. Yes, I did.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, I'm kind of right in the middle of it. Like, I get the point that he's making, but like you said, Mac, it's Sidney Crosby. He can do what he wants. Like, and to his credit, he was there the night after for the skills comp when he didn't have to be, and went out on the ice with Bedard for a cool moment. And he sat there beside Bedard for 2 hours on the stage. Like, he did the passing thing, right? It's cool that he was there. If that video clip didn't come out, nobody would have said anything. Like, we would have just not known why he wasn't there, and then nobody talks about it. So to me, it's a non-big deal. But like you said, Mac, Nick, if it was Malkin, if it was Ovi for the 200th time that he skipped the All-Star game, it's a different story.
Also, I think like the fact that it's Crosby, we all know he's not skipping it to go like party at some club. He was playing hockey. Like,
Right. No, he looks like
I don't
want
to do this like thing where I just have to sit here and like I want to actually go play hockey. Like I'm with it. Like I would have done the exact same thing. It sounds way more fucking fun.
Did you see the video the Penguins put out of him on the plane?
Yeah, the travel stories are you talking about? Or
Yeah, so he was at a wolf conservatory. He was in Yellowstone and he was like looking at wolves and coyotes on the side of the road and stuff, and that's why he
yeah,
wasn't there. So like it's just so
it's
funny
the
that like
funniest
That's
thing,
the
dude. He,
dream.
Frank's getting pissed over Sid liking animals, basically is what it boils down to.
It's like,
so
meanwhile, he's probably like planned that trip out. He's like, wow, I've got like 48 hours between like this game and this All-Star game commitment. Let me go do something I actually want to do with my time.
Yeah, he wanted 24 hours away from carrying the Penguins into a playoff spot for the sixth time in his career.
yeah, it's a whole separate conversation. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, fellas. I got no more questions. If I'll let you guys fire away if you got any left.
Final verdict on the uniforms here, boys.
I like them.
I've done a full 360. Those of you who've been listening for a couple weeks, I initially was kind of a hater. Then I was kind of like, oh, they're kind of cool. And I have now officially ordered Austin Matthews blue All-Star game jersey. So I did order a fake one because I'm not spending like $300 on that. So hopefully it doesn't look like shit. But I'll let you guys know in like 4 months.
Sounds
Oh,
fair.
I think that's a good call. You're not buying the real one for those. And um, I, I still don't like the font. I still don't like the names being all lowercase. I don't like the number font. I will stand by that.
The
They
name on the
definitely grew.
bottom is still really dumb. I will stand by that. That's
Did
horrible.
you guys have that when you were kids at the bottom or no?
We had like
Never.
we would make fun of like this is like mean because I played for like the travel team and then there was also like an in-house rec team of like the scrubs or whatever, and they like obviously had like less funding and so their jerseys looked shittier and had the names on the bottom. So like anytime we saw somebody wearing the name on the bottom, we're like, oh, that guy sucks.
So
Which
when we were
like
like 6 in Canada, they put stop signs on the back of your jersey so that there was no hitting from behind, right? So they moved the bar down to the bottom. And I don't like that look mostly because there's a big stop sign on your jersey. But yeah, I don't like the bottom. I don't like the lowercase. I really don't like the number. I didn't love the red one. I didn't love the white one. The blue and yellow are super clean. And like you said, Max, if they weren't an arm and a leg, I would probably have bought one.
I wasn't a big fan of the font either. I don't mind it when like women's hockey does the number or does the name underneath the number, especially because like typically the hair is a little bit
The
longer.
hair, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of it typically.
And boys, just to wrap us up on the All-Star game then with a little rant here, I just want to reiterate that the face of the league from a marketing standpoint is Austin Matthews, and I would like us to stop questioning that. I'm sitting here with two dudes from the greater Washington area who each own an Austin Matthews jersey.
Yeah,
We
it's
watched
very
him be
true.
boys with Bieber this weekend. We watched him steal the show with the kids from the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. We watched him design every ounce of his equipment. He had a collab post with Instagram itself, the actual Instagram, showing them around his house. He was the life of the party by all accounts at every single event. He was the one hooking the boys up, and he was having fun out there. McDavid tried really hard in the competition, which we love and we needed. But when it comes to a marketing standpoint, it is Austin Matthews League. And again, bigger topic, but in sports, we have such a move on quickly mindset and like, oh, he's the next one. Oh, get ready for him. The first 3 months of the season, it was all about Bedard, right? And Bedard's already the face of the league. No, he's not. I talked to him this week. Like, no, he's not. He doesn't have that charisma and confidence in the media yet that Matthews does. The league needs to continue to put Austin Matthews out there because every time he's on camera, he absolutely crushes it. And I think this weekend perfectly encapsulated that.
yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think that I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said.
And you know, he's fifth best player still. I still think Kucherov, no try in the skills comp, is a better player than him. I think McKinnon, McDavid, Makar, they're better players than him. Like I'm not saying he's the best player in the world, but when it comes to marketability and a guy that
Yeah.
can grow the game without even considering the fact that he's half Mexican and grew up in Arizona, he
Right.
has such an impact on the game, off the ice, in culture, in the media. He's the face of the league from a media standpoint.
Yeah,
And
the NHL should definitely recognize like the tool that they have in him to be able to grow the game because there's a significant amount of opportunity there that
A
can be
hundred
explored.
percent. A
and
hundred percent.
USA
And you
Hockey, I
three
think, is
know
is going to see a big boom from it too, because
a hundred
we all
percent.
saw what happened with the Ovi effect in DC. I mean, this is going to be on a national stage when he retires and is the greatest American hockey player of all time.
1,000%. And you three know it better than anybody, the impact that Sid and Ovi had on the league. And like they've been quoted as saying they saved the league, and they did so without really being marketable players. The
Yeah.
marketing was each other going up against each
Yeah.
other, right? Like,
Yeah, and it was before like really Instagram was super
yeah,
popular and
sure.
stuff too. So I mean, it was more just like TV and like
exactly.
Facebook a little, I guess. I don't know. Twitter.
Exactly. Like you said, Mac, he's a tool. Austin Matthews is a marketing tool for the league, and they need to tap into that. Like same as Matthew Tkachuk is a marketing tool. I don't care to argue over whether he's the fifth best player or the 10th best player. Like just leverage the damn fact that you have an insanely likable guy off the ice and an insanely hateable guy on the ice. Like turn that into marketing, grow this damn game.
So true.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it
Rant,
better.
rant concluded.
There we go. Well, I think that wraps it up for our 2024 All-Star coverage. Mr. Bowens, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, fellas. Good to be here. Seems like once a month at this point, so I'm gonna start charging you rent.
Sounds good.
Big thanks to Bowens for recapping the All-Star Game weekend. If you're listening and you listen, make sure you comment on the YouTube channel of anything that you disagreed or agreed with that maybe you thought was cool during the All-Star weekend. But I know some really cool news that came over that is definitely taking over the hockey world is two things. One, there is no All-Star Game next year. They are instead going to be doing a four-nation international tournament. They're going to have a Finland, Sweden, Canada, United States best on best play in February of 2025. And then Gary Bettman also dropped a nuclear piece of news for all hockey fans. The NHL is going back to the Olympics in 2026 and 2030. Boys,
We did it, boys.
We've been salivating over that. We needed this, and we finally got it.
We haven't had a meaningful Caps or Penguins playoff series since this show started. But the one thing since this show started that we've been working towards is this moment right here.
This is incredible news for the league.
And it was
so
all
pumped.
because of us,
Can't be anyone else.
Couldn't
No.
be anyone else. Well,
we've mentioned it before, but Bettman listens to every episode. So,
well, I think we actually just brought it up so often that he got so fed up with it. He was like, you know what, I have to.
Yeah, Betts is a fellow listener, so he took our word for it. But I guess I want to ask you guys this: a lot of flack online, and hopefully this doesn't get like political or whatever. But like they're like, you like, how can you call it best on best next year, not the Olympics, if Russia isn't in it? I understand. I would argue that Russia would probably be the fourth, maybe even third best country on that list. Kind of sucks because we would love to see Ovechkin, Malkin, Kucherov, all those guys play.
3 best goalies in the world, man.
yeah.
Sorokin, Shesterkin, Vasi. I mean,
yeah, arguably, I would say.
Order.
And then in the Olympics, like, I don't know if they're going to rename it like
I have a feeling
Olympic athletes of Russia or something like that.
I have a feeling just based on every other international sports event we've seen happen in the last 2.5 years that they're not involved. I sort of have that feeling going into 2026 as well with the Olympics. I know let's talk about the Four Nations tournament for a second, because I know there was some pretty heavy backlash to that as well. Mainly everyone saying, well, what about everyone who's not from one of those 4 countries?
Right.
Pasta, he was quite vocal about it, saying how he's not going to watch because, there is, not a plethora of representation, for lack of a better word, when it comes to players from outside those 4 countries. I know the plan is to expand that. Like, I know the plan going forward is to basically make that the World Cup of hockey. We'll have like the Olympic year, then we'll have, a couple All-Star games, then maybe we have this Four Nations thing or whatever they turn it into, World Cup, whatever. I know the plan is down the road, build it, expand it, then you add in the Danes and the Germans and the Czechs and the Slovaks and everyone else. So I would like to see that, especially, I know that's been thrown out as a concept for All-Star games in the past. It's definitely something I think I'm interested in. As long as they go and they care about it, that's what I think matters. What I would really hate to see is that be during the All-Star break and people just be like, I'm not going, or I'm going to go and mail this in, because then it's sort of, they're going overseas and doing all this stuff for nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it when they announced it, and we were all kind of like, oh, it's better than nothing, but there's some issues. And then now that we have the Olympics secured, I'm kind of like, I don't really give a fuck about this, but I'm like, I
No,
guess since it's happening, I'll take it. Like,
it's like the World Cup. And when they did the World Cup in 16, I was like, great, but it's not the same.
yeah.
You know?
I will say that ended up being pretty cool, though.
It was.
I did like the World Cup of hockey, and we've talked about it before, but having like Team North America and like there was a lot of
that's what
cool
I think
things.
this tournament needs. Like, if you're
And
going to do 4
hopefully
nations,
like you said, hopefully they're striving towards something like that eventually. So with that in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, okay, let's see how this plays out. Hopefully it's good. But yeah, I have a lot of questions and reservations for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks it's only those 4, because I totally agree. Like, 2 of the top 10 players in the world aren't going to be in this tournament. Pastrnak, Draisaitl, those 2 guys that come to the top of my mind. I honestly think there's an easy fix to this, and I know they won't do it, but I mean, you could do a under 23 team like North America, and since you have the Olympics the year after, it's not like as devastating to not see what your actual best roster could have been. Because I know, like, when McDavid was on North America, people are like, he should be on Canada. Like, come on. And I'm like, well, now that you have the Olympics, you're eventually going to see that. But
right.
do a U23 like North American studs, and then as your 6th team to keep it like 3 in Group A, 3 in Group B, you can do like a rest of world. And
yeah,
then you
like
got
a Team Europe.
yeah, like Draisaitl, Pastrnak, and
Yeah,
then
they
you
did
let-
that too, right? Team Europe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like they kind of fumbled that a little bit, but what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna complain too much.
Yeah, I think if like they expand that 4 nations tournament at all, the next 2 you add are North America and Europe, because then everyone can get involved. If you want to split it up further and it gets big enough to the point when you want to, have the Slovaks have their own team, and the Germans and the Danes and the Czechs and the Swiss, whatever. But the big news here is the Olympics. I mean, we have been saying since what, 2014, boys, we haven't had a NHL best on best in the world tournament. It's been 10 years. It's been since, Harry, you and I were in or just finishing up high school. So that's crazy to think about. But
yeah,
it's definitely something I think this sport needs, because I think the quickest ways we all grew up into being these lifelong hockey fans was watching Team USA play at the Olympics. Those are some of the best memories I have from growing up.
100%. I agree.
So the 2026 Olympics are in Milan, Italy. Am I reading this correctly?
Yep.
So I'm strictly bringing this up for broadcast time purposes, because if you do remember the 10 years ago when Oshie was doing the shootout and everything,
In
that was
Sochi.
like a 7:30 in the morning watch time, which, can be kind of brutal for people, especially depending on work schedules. So if it's in Italy, I think that's 6 hours ahead of us.
6 or 7, depending on where.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you think they play at night, right? Like maybe 7 p.m. games. You get some noon.
I mean, if
Noonish
NHL
times?
players are going, and this is another huge help for the Olympics, they're going to center it around North American time, because the overwhelming majority of these NHL players are from North America. So
They
they're
always
going
figure something out. Yeah.
like, it's going to be like I don't know, like an 8 p.m. game that's on at 2 p.m. Eastern time or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking in terms of like what that means for your watching schedule. But no, it's great. I mean, this is the best news ever. I can guarantee you this podcast is going to be one of the best brands to follow in terms of, mock rosters, predictions. We're definitely, if you follow us on YouTube, we've been doing some 3-on-3 best nation lineups. So those keep a eye on the YouTube channel. I'm sure a lot will be coming for that.
Dude, I've said this since I
100%.
was like 6 years old. It's like I need to see 2 things in my life: the Caps win the Stanley Cup, and Team USA with best on best win Olympic gold. I've seen one. I'm ready for the next.
So I have to ask this before we move on to the last thing. Can the USA beat Canada or whoever? Yes, they can. Will they actually? Man, I can't wait to fucking find out, because that roster on both teams is just so nasty.
Yeah, I agree. Got to see the roster before I make a official call on that. But can they? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, a little expansion chat. The NHL has received continued expansion interest from Salt Lake City, Utah, Atlanta, Houston, Cincinnati, bleh, Kansas City, bleh, Omaha, and Quebec City. We don't associate ourselves with anything that has to do with Bengals or Chiefs Nation, so
Correct.
we don't need those cities in there. But
Agree. Fuck that.
out of that list, what cities would you guys be most interested in?
I'm cool with Milwaukee. Sorry, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that was a Freudian slip. I actually didn't even mean to do that. But
Yeah, sure.
I'm cool with Atlanta. I'm cool with Salt Lake City, I guess, although that one I have some questions about. Omaha, get real. Quebec City seems like it would be cool. I know they want one really bad. Houston, we do not need two fucking hockey teams in the state of Texas. I feel the same way about how we have the Panthers and the Lightning. We don't need both of them. And I feel like if we expanded to Houston, like 5 years from now, we'd be like, why the fuck do we have both these teams? So
Is it bad that like I'm like, let's do Atlanta for the third time?
yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
with that too. I'm like,
Like
Only
yeah,
if
amazing sports city. They already have like the infrastructure and the venue potentially set up. They're big enough where I feel like you look at maybe a place like Omaha and you're like, oh, you guys, you stick to college hockey. And then Quebec City, where it's like, well, you can't smoke in the arena, so no one's going to show up, you know?
right.
Um, Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, and then Salt Lake City, I feel like they would name the team something like super cringe from TikTok, like the Salt Lake
No.
City Extreme or something.
No.
Oh, no.
I feel like so this has nothing to do with like the logistics of things. I think Salt Lake City would have like the coolest logo and maybe like uniform concept. I feel like they could bring some heat because maybe I'm just thinking of the Jazz, but like I've always thought the Utah Jazz is just a cool name.
Oh, unreal. And great uniforms too.
Give
Yeah.
me like the Salt Lake City Zipliners or something like that.
Oh, I could
Or-
get behind that.
Or like the Foresters or like the Mountaineers or something.
Yeah.
The Nalgene water bottles or something like that.
Nalgene.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And, and where there's a basketball team, I feel like it's easy to slide a hockey team in, share the arena. I think the owner of the Jazz is the one who's been showing interest.
Yeah, Ryan Smith. I think he really wants one.
The Salt Lake City Merrill Boots.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't even know, what is Utah like known for?
Mormons.
Hiking.
Well, no, I know, but,
Mormons.
like-
The Salt Lake City Mitt Romneys.
There, yeah, there you go. That'll be a real seller right there.
Yeah, that would
They
get all the
just-
attention.
They're just like,
The
okay,
Romneys.
it's just the BYU hockey team. It's just Brigham Young.
Yo. Wait, the Salt Lake City Mitts or the Salt Lake City Romneys?
Salt Lake City Mitts, because we could have
Yes.
some fun with that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Down with that one.
Yeah. And mitts, like drop the mitts.
Yeah, go watch Shoresy if you don't know what we're talking about. But
Zipliners kind of had a nice little ring to it. I know it.
And you
like,
can just stick Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave on the zip
There you
line on the
go.
front of the jersey. Call it a day.
yeah, you could have like on the dashboard just says "Let's Go Liners."
Love that.
Yeah.
Before we get to gambling and trivia, we're gonna give a little bean pot update and some college hockey odds. Nick, the floor is yours.
Dude, Beanpot season. Who doesn't love that? We had some unreal matchups last night. We had Harvard. They fell to the not so smart kids over at Northeastern in overtime. I would like to make a nomination for the new front runner for hockey name of the year in 2024. It's only February, but the overtime game-winning goal between Harvard and Northeastern was scored by none other than Gunnar Wolf Fontaine.
Just so you know, if you're listening, that is the first name is Gunnar Wolf.
Like, how cool of a kid do you have to be visually when you're born to
If
your
you're
dad to be
listening-
like, or your mom to be like, you know what's a good name for him? Not Jim, not Sam, not Toby, Gunnar Wolf.
If you're listening and you're from Maryland, this kid definitely would have gone to like Friends or like Rowan
Gonzaga.
Park or something like that. Like
Gonzaga kid for sure.
total crunchy granola, like hiking family. But
Oh my God.
in fact, he'd probably love the Salt Lake City Zipliners.
He would, yeah.
He
First
probably
overall pick,
owns
actually.
Merrill
Yeah.
Boots.
No, but just the first game was great. I mean, love the fact that it goes to overtime, especially when it gets tied up in the fashion that it did. Did not realize this until yesterday. You guys know I love following my college hockey on here, but Harvard, they have both Mason Langenbrunner, son of Jamie, and the Hayduk twins, Milan Hayduk's kids. So they've got Merrick and David Hayduk. I mean, it was great to see them out there. The fact that those guys are like playing against each other, to me, I know I texted you guys this last night. It's so funny because their dads were literally taking championships away from each other in the early 2000s.
True. Yeah.
BU ends up getting revenge on BC in the second game. So the title game is going to be Northeastern against BU. Another submission for the hockey name of all time for 2024 for this year. A goal scored in that game by none other than BC's Gentry Schamberger. Hockey.
In my pocket, I have a couple of Schambergers.
Like, what hockey parents? What are you doing?
I love it. I love it.
That's literally just the fucking Steve Martin Pink Panther scene in a last name.
Yes, that's the first thing I thought of.
A couple of Schambergers.
The second thing I thought of was I had to text my friend Pat and I'd be like, "Did your uncle steal a bunch of hamburgers or some shit?" Like, because Pat's last name is Gentry. So, oh my god, unreal. But highlight of the Bean Pot. Highlight of the Bean Pot has to be projected first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini's interview on Nesson following the BU win over BC right after they lost to them twice the past week. So we're going to insert that right here for you guys.
Last weekend definitely didn't go as planned. We knew what we need to do tonight, and I thought us as a whole, we fucking bounced back.
For sure, and you watch.
What's not to love? I feel like they should be allowed on a regular basis to give interviews like that.
I love how the lady interviewing him didn't even bat an eye. She was like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Well, it's on Nesson. It's Northeastern Sports Network, so you know it's not that bad, John.
Right. They were all too busy sipping on the Donkin.
I'm still emotionally recovering from granola crunch that Max said earlier. That's probably the funniest fucking thing I've heard. That might be the funniest thing ever said on this podcast. Anyways,
come on. We've had
digress.
That was your Bean Pot update. We've got another great series between Sparty and U of M coming up this week, capped off with the duel in the D at Little Caesars Arena Saturday night. Big Ten Network, two of the best college hockey programs out there, Michigan, Michigan State going head to head. So be sure to tune in for that as we get set for the Frozen Four.
Yeah, love it. Thanks for that recap, Nick. We're going to read you some NCAA championship odds for college hockey. But before we do, we want to remind you that this gambling segment is brought to you by Prop Tracker. Prop Tracker is your home for player prop research and finding outlier bets for NHL, NBA, NFL, and more. I believe they actually just added golf, so that's going to be awesome. Once you find a bet you like, start tracking it to get notified on its progress, like shots, rebounds, or receptions. Go to proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters, or you can click the link in any of our social media bios, and you can try a free month of the Android or iOS app. Just a reminder that Prop Tracker does not have the letter E in it, so it's just proptrackr.com/emptybetters. All right, just a reminder that this is the last episode before the Super Bowl. I would definitely want to suggest that if you are going to try Prop Tracker, you intend on betting on the Super Bowl, download it using the link in our bio. And like I said, you'll get a month free. You can find all the Travis Kelce, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, who gets the longest field goal, how many times Taylor Swift's on TV, all that shit. You find it all on Prop
What
Tracker.
color the Gatorade actually is.
Yes, it'll give you all the stats and data that you need.
PTSD.
That was the biggest bullshit of all time.
Nick, I'll let you read the odds to win the NCAA College Hockey Championship.
Sure. So as of today, following the first round of the Bean Pot last night, the championship odds are BC out front with plus 550, BU right behind at plus 600, Nodak, North Dakota at plus 700, Wisco, Wumbo at plus 800, Denver at plus 850, and then Michigan, Michigan State, and Minnesota are all at plus 1100. Guys, if you're going to go value, you got to go one of those three plus 1100 teams. And that comes with some heavy bias here, but
Minnesota or Michigan could definitely win it all.
And,
Definitely.
I'm going to speak up for Sparty a little bit here. What do you need to win a championship in hockey? We just talked about it with the Oilers. We just talked about it with the Canucks. It's goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
Whose goaltender just won a gold medal with Team USA at the World Juniors? It's Michigan State and Trey
True.
Augustine.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. No NHL gambling stats for today. We're just coming off an All-Star break, a couple of days off, so we'll come back at you with that last week. Follow us on Twitter/X, whatever it's called today. I put out a thread that I think a lot of people maybe enjoyed. I don't know. I got some traction online. Did a little gambling thread using Prop Tracker's stats to kind of help people make some guesses for tonight's Tuesday action. So go give us a follow. Trivia, Super Bowl predictions, then we're out of here. Mac, the floor is yours.
All right, quick reminder to support your local dive bar and have a beer at Elwood's Liquor and Tap, home of the Pizza Luge, located in the heart of downtown Milwaukee on Water Street. This 70s-inspired bar has a little something for everybody, from daily happy hour, rotating taps, free birthday perks, and a four-season patio. A good time is always around the corner at Elwood's with the full NHL package, plus TV screens inside and out. Hockey fans can watch any game, anytime, and don't leave your dogs at home. They're a dog-friendly bar. We will see you down at Elwood's Liquor and Tap. All right, boys, I hope you guys are good at trivia because people are mad. People are mad right now. They want to stop listening. They've been listening for a long time. They're done. So I hope you can get this really quickly and eliminate any potential steering wheel punchers. Okay, here we go. This player celebrated his 500th NHL game with his 7th career hat trick on February 6th, 2002, as his team beat the visiting Philadelphia Flyers 5-4. Who we got?
I'm gonna definitely need who do you play for? Does it say?
500th game in 02.
He played for his team. Yeah, his 500th game in in 2002, and it was also his 7th career hat trick. So good ass player. By 02, he had already played 500 games and scored 7 hat tricks. Just a classic staple of like early 2000s, late 90s hockey.
We don't know who he played for. All we know is he played against Philly.
Western Conference team.
Maybe a little Western Canadian team, could it be?
No, American.
Okay, shit, never mind. It's not Marcus Naslund.
Geez. California team, just for sake of time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Luke Robitaille.
Nope.
Jonathan Chichu.
Nope.
2002.
Household name, right?
Oh, yeah.
Paul Correa?
Bingo, baby. Let's go.
Nice.
Let's
There it
go.
is.
My
Off the
favorite number
floor
9
and
of all
on
time.
the board, baby.
Love it. Yeah. Thank God I thought of that 03 clip.
Yeah, my next hint was going to be he scores a goal on one of the most iconic play calls ever in NHL.
He literally comes back from the dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
Wow, I'm surprised that was it.
Shout out Gary Thorne.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Come
Mac.
back,
Enjoyed
Gary.
that.
We need you.
Yeah.
All right, Super Bowl predictions. Let's get it out of here. Any best bets, thoughts, comments on the game? We'll make it quick. Keep this under a minute.
I think you guys know who I'm rooting for. I used to live in San Fran. I used to live down the street from Bryant Young, NFL Hall of Famer. So I'm going Niners.
Yeah. Anybody but the Chiefs. Go Niners. Also, my buddy likes them, and he'll be at my house. So go Niners.
Obviously, rooting against the Chiefs, fuck them. But I will say I have placed a wager on the Chiefs plus 2.5. I do think that they'll end up winning. I don't want them to win, but I think they will. Best bet from me. I saw this online. It spoke to my soul. I don't need any explanation. Just book it and don't think. Longest field goal made. Choose the team. Niners or Chiefs. I think Chiefs at minus 115 is a great bet for that.
That's a good one, especially because Butker is basically automatic.
Yep.
I feel like they just don't kick that often, though. For like
I
a
was
team,
about to say, I feel like
like-
they're way more inclined to go for it, though.
like a team that's got like one of the best and most consistent kickers in the NFL, they just don't go for it because Mahomes either converts on 3rd down or they just go for it on 4th.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like The offense, the offense has been kind of better recently, but they haven't been like lighting it on fire. The Bills win, the Ravens win. They really didn't put up that many points. I feel like they're going to be in a little bit of a tighter matchup. Maybe need to take some points when they can get them. So I don't know. I just saw that and I was like, it's Bucker. It makes sense. And the Niners are aggressive. So I
My
love
two
it.
cents, and then we'll get the fuck out of here. Everybody's saying, "Oh, I think the Niners are just going to get domed by the Chiefs or whatever." And I am a conspiracy theorist, and I do think the fix could be in for the Chiefs. But
Oh, you don't say.
all that aside, I think there's a chance the Chiefs lose because they kind of fucking suck. The Ravens should have won that game.
Yeah.
We beat ourselves. They didn't score that many points. I know the Ravens D played really well in the second half, but I'm just saying, I feel like they have kind of had a little bit of a walk in the park here. I mean, they had to grind for that Bills game for sure, but I don't know. I could see them coming into this all cocky, thinking, okay, we beat the Ravens. They were kind of the favorite for a while from a lot of people. I could see them coming in, taking this for granted, and out of nowhere, the Niners ruin everybody's Cinderella story. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, Super Bowl. Maybe I'm just manifesting that because that's what I would definitely want to happen. But
I was gonna ask if you guys
can
are
see it.
buying into like the script at all that like Kelsey's gonna get at least one touchdown in
Oh,
the Super
absolutely.
Bowl just
Oh,
so
for
they can.
sure.
Yeah, 100%.
I was gonna say, like, if you're gonna make a bet for this Super Bowl, which by the way, the Vegas has done everything in its power to make the NFL unbettable as a sport.
Yep.
Bet Travis Kelce to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Do you know how much money the NFL is gonna make just by that camera panning to her for
Yeah.
half a second?
Yeah. Nick, yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
That is the one.
Not just
That
a
is-
hat rack, boys. Come on.
That is the way. But all right,
Anyway.
everybody enjoy your Super Bowl. Enjoy the first week back of hockey. We appreciate the love and support as always. Last thing, if anyone listening to this is a golf fan, please text me, DM me, tweet at me. I will be at the Waste Management Open this weekend looking for
Ooh.
some bets. I would love to. In Arizona, it's legal, so I'm going to go a
And-
little crazy.
What are you gonna be doing at the Waste Management Open, or why are you gonna be there?
Wasting money.
Yeah. But what is the event that you are there for?
It is a bachelor party to
Yes, it's been nice knowing you.
my dearest friend, Mr. Mike Zito. So it's gonna be a fun time. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're out of here. Without further ado.
Class dismissed.